what do I do after I've learned to illustrate? And I'm going to read a really quick little letter, and it says, it's really just one big question I have. What do art students do after they graduate? I don't feel I'll have the skills to be a pro after graduation, and I think that is the case for many artists. Should we just find a job to pay the bills and keep working on our art until we're ready for more art-related jobs? What would be some sort of low-tier illustration jobs if there is such a thing? That's it. Thanks, Griffin. And I know that we've talked about similar things to this before, but this is a question that every single art student wonders about from the very beginning. I mean, they wonder about it before they go to school. They wonder about it while they're in school. They wonder about it as they're approaching their final year.
Their parents wonder about it.
Their parents are wondering about it.
Right. Friends are wondering about it.
Friends are wondering about it, and you know, when you're an art student, you have to defend your choice of major, right? You're like, wait, you're an artist? What are you going to do? I'm sure there's an answer, and I'll get back to you on that. And then they email us and ask the question. I don't know. I'm writing.
What am I going to do?
Right. And I remember feeling that way. I remember feeling that way all the time, and I was always very surprised that when I would try to bring something like that up in class, often the teacher would sidestep the question. You know, I had a few teachers that were really good at talking about it, and often the answers were still really vague. But I hope that we can really shed some light on this and give you guys some answers. So before we get going, I just want to tell Lee and Jake kind of what I have planned. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about. I want to get your ideas on first, but I'm going to be reading kind of a game plan, a 6-step game plan towards when you guys are done. Kind of, you know, I'll correct your wrong answers with that and set everybody straight. And then I want to talk about levels 1 through 10 artists, what that looks like and what their lives look like. And so I have some descriptions to read there too. A level 1 would be starting out in elementary school. A level 10 would be obviously the highest that you can attain.
Will Terry.
I don't think so. I would not put myself at a level 10. So the one of the questions here was low tier illustration jobs. What are your guys' thoughts on should someone when they get out, should they find an art related job? Should they find any job? Should they, you know, they got to pay the bills? What would be your guys' advice on just the job part?
That is a good question, because I go back and forth on this, and I think it comes down to sort of our last episode topic, like, do what you want to do. Like, what is it that you want to work on and do that thing? So if you can find an entry level job that's close to that, where you're doing like a small portion of it, like say eventual goal is like art directing video games. You want to be an art director at a video game company, then any sort of entry level job having to do with that would be perfect, because someday as an art director, you'll be able to say, well, I worked this scrub job, you know, at a no-name video game company, and I saw how things worked there, and I saw how it was on the ground floor, and so I know, you take all that information with you as you get up to that high level. If it's illustration, if it's like I want to do book covers, you know, that's something Lee's working on right now, then there's no entry level like book cover jobs. It's if there is, it's somebody who's probably not going to pay you, or if they are, they're not going to pay you much. The book isn't going to be published far and wide. It's probably self-published, or that's as low as you could go. So perhaps that's something you could do, but it's not going to be your job. It's not going to pay enough to be your job. So you're probably going to have to take a job doing something else that pays you enough to survive while you take on these entry-level jobs. one thing you have to be cautious and aware of is taking a job that in the creative field saps creativity. So that if you think, well, I'll work all day doing, this semi-creative thing, and then I'll spend my nights and my weekends working on, book cover designs. You might not have the creative energy left to put into your craft. You might just you've poured it all into this tangential job, and there's just nothing left over for you to put into your work. So sometimes maybe the best option is to get a job that requires zero creativity. You can sort of show up, you can just do it. And
So
then
you're
say
saying
that-
like managing a fast food joint,
yeah,
or working as a clerk at a Home Depot, or
Yeah,
stock
preferably
shelves.
under that one, you want as little responsibility and effort as you can get.
yeah,
If
because
You're saving yourself basically for
to come home and like, oh, I can't wait to get drawing when I get home.
right, and really your mindset needs to be, yes, my main job is mastering my craft. I'm just doing this other stuff for rent, food, going to the movies every once in a while. So that would be my early graduate college advice is spend the majority of your creative energy doing the thing that you want to do and you want to be paid for and you want to be a level 10 artist at, whatever that is. Or get a entry level job.
I just want to break in. You're saying do that on your own. Start working on that thing.
Yeah, working on it on your own.
So
right.
let's just take children's book illustrator. I want to be a children's book illustrator. I'm
Okay.
about to graduate. So in that example, you're saying start illustrating your own books in your spare
Or doing
time.
the types of illustrations that would build out the ideal portfolio.
For that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then get the Home Depot job.
Or if you're wanting to get into some sort of industry job where there is like room for advancement within a company. So animation, TV, animation, feature animation, video games, those sort of things where you get hired by a company, you transition between companies, then the sooner you can get a job in one of those industries, the better you're going to be overall if your plan is to live and die in that industry.
How about you, Lee?
same. I it's interesting because when I was in school, I would think just any art job is going to be a good one. And that was the criteria, but it's so exhausting, and it can, I think not only from exhaustion point of view, and you don't get new portfolio pieces in the area you want, but just in terms of your thinking and how it can derail you to do art jobs that are totally separate from what you really want to do. So I think it's important to keep them separate, especially the more fine art you are, the less you want to go for that low-end commercial job, because those are horrible, and they really beat you up quite a bit and control the imagery, and over time your images will change and maybe a way that you don't like.
So the fear, what I'm hearing from you guys is the fear of getting an art-related job. Is that what we're calling it?
Sure.
Kind of like a job that's ancillary to what you really want to be doing, but it is technically
art
an art
adjacent.
job. Art adjacent job. So some of those might be, just to give some meat to this discussion for those listening, I've known people that have worked as an artist for a grocery store chain where they were making signs, but they could make kind of creative, do a little illustrations along with the signs. Malls, institutions, schools, libraries, museums. I have a friend. We all have a mutual friend, Nate Hale, who worked, I don't know if you know him, Lee, but Nathan Hale worked, he got his start at a museum of all places.
You're talking about the painter.
Yeah.
Nate Hale?
Graphic
Well,
novelist.
graphic novelist, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And he did Rapunzel's Revenge and among many. Oh, he did the Hazardous Tales series, but he got his start. Well, he actually got his start because his parents owned a theater in the Round, Playhouse, and then he was making signs for them. That got him the job at a museum as the in-house artist, making signs and murals and different things like that. He got a lot of painting experience there, and then he worked his way into publishing. Amusement parks. A lot of bigger companies have an art department. They need art for a brochure. They need art for some of the collateral material that they make. Most of that work is done by graphic designers, but often they'll hire artists that were trained in illustration. You guys that are listening, if you also have graphic design skills, so you'll get a chance to do some art jobs. So, but what I'm hearing you guys saying, you're kind of warning against those kinds of jobs because it takes. I mean, you do only have so much creative energy in a day.